Just a reminder, you are on camera. The camera's behind me. And we're going to start our morning with a briefing from Hiram Birch from BLS, with the local fiscal briefing. And if you wouldn't mind using the microphone, it makes it easier for all your fans at home to hear you.
Very good. We have a packet of information for you.
I don't think the mic is on.
It's in the map. Start off with the map. And there you can show a graphical representation of state aid to local governments. It puts it on a per capita basis and also on an annual percent change. And also included in your packet is a detailed listing of state aid programs for both Montgomery County and for statewide. This morning, I'm going to walk you through this presentation document that's called Overview of State Aid to Local Governments. I'm just going to focus on some major highlights that's impacting Montgomery County this year. So if you turn to page 1 of the overview document, it basically indicates that the state government provides a large share of the state budget to local governments. Around 38% of general funds goes to local governments, and around 26% goes to of state funds. And at the bottom of the page, you can see that in relation to state aid to local governments, state agencies represent around 40% of general funds and around 53% of state funds. So the amount of money that the state collects in state tax revenues, the amount that goes to local governments, is a major part of the state budget. If you turn to page 3, it shows you that for fiscal 2021, Montgomery County will receive around $1 billion in state aid. That's a $35 million increase from the prior year and a 3.4% increase. When you compare it on a per capita basis, Montgomery County ranks 19th. It receives around $1,000 per county resident. The statewide average is around $1,400. The rationale for Montgomery County receiving less state aid than the state average is around 70% of state aid incorporates a local wealth measure, and that more funds goes to jurisdictions with a lower tax base. Another factor is around 85% of state aid is for public schools, and that is where the state tries to ensure that public schools have the same amount of resources regardless of where they're located in the state. If you turn to page 4, it breaks down state aid by unit of local government. You can see of the $1 billion in state funding, around $800 million is going to the county school system. Around $53 million is going to community colleges. Around $34 million is going back to your county government and your municipal governments. The local library system gets $3.5 million, and around $4 million is for the local health department. $171 million is for retirement payments. These funds do not go directly to Montgomery County, but are paid on behalf of Montgomery County to the State Retirement Agency. If you turn to page 6, it breaks down the annual increase in state aid. There you can see that of the $35 million increase in state aid, direct funding for the local government is going up by $40 million. There is an actual $5 million decrease in retirement payments. That is due to a lower retirement contribution rate. So the program is still fully funded. You can see that the public school system is getting around $39 million in additional funding. Community colleges around $1 million. If you turn to page 8, there is one aspect of state aid to local government that's being affected this year in the governor's proposed budget, and that is funding for the local community colleges and the county share of assessments costs. Both provisions are in the Budget Reconciliation Financing Act, which will require General Assembly approval. You can see for Montgomery County, the reduction in community college funding is $3.1 million. In addition, the county government will be expected to contribute another $645,000 to cover the state cost of assessments. If you turn to page 12, we're going to focus a little bit on public safety funding. There you can see that Montgomery County will receive around $16.4 million in police aid funding. Page 13 shows how the funds are allocated. For the most part, around 75% of the funds are based on population density. Jurisdictions that have a higher population density receives a higher per capita funding amount. Another component of the program is the number of municipal sworn officers. However, around $800,000 of Montgomery County's formula amount is reduced to cover the state's cost for the crime lab. As with most funding for the county government, there is not a local wealth component to it. So the county receives full funding and it is not adjusted for your local wealth. That is true for the police aid formula, for the health aid formula, and for transportation funding. Page 14 shows funding for targeted crime grants. Most of these funds are targeted to Baltimore City and Prince George's County, but Montgomery County could receive a share of the statewide initiatives. Baltimore City does not receive money under the police aid formula. Most of their funds for public safety is through the targeted crime grants. The rationale for that is that the state took over funding of the Baltimore City Local Detention Center and their central booking facilities. Those are both state agencies. And the other 23 counties, those are local responsibilities. Page 19 provides information on local highway user funding in Montgomery County, and it shows you that in 2021, Montgomery County will get around $14.7 million in funding for local highways. Of that amount, $8.4 million will go to the county government and $6.3 million will go to the municipal governments. We are now going to shift our focus to education funding. So if you turn to page 25, it shows you that Montgomery County will get around $960 million in funding for their public school system. This is around $6,000 per student. It's slightly below the state average. As we talked about earlier, funding for public schools incorporates a local wealth measure. And page 26 kind of illustrates that. For direct aid, and this is the money that goes directly to the public school system. This is what goes paid for teachers' salaries and school classroom operations. Montgomery County would get $802 million. This is around $5,000 per student. The funds for teachers' retirement totals around $158 million. There, Montgomery County would get around $1,000 per student. Funds for teachers' retirement are not adjusted for local wealth. It's based solely on the number of teachers in the school system and the salary amount for the teachers. Page 27 shows that compared to other local school systems this year, funding for Montgomery County is going up more than the state average. In fact, for per pupil direct aid is going up by 3.5%, which is the fourth highest increase in the state. And page 28 illustrates why education aid is going up more than the state average. There you can see that student enrollment growth in the state, Montgomery County has the fifth highest amount at 1.5%. The state average is 1.3%. And you can see at the bottom of the column, several local school systems, including Baltimore City, are experiencing declining student enrollment. Another factor that is leading to Montgomery County's high increase in direct aid this year is the low increase in your local wealth per pupil. In fact, Montgomery County has the lowest increase in local wealth this year at a 3% increase when the state average was 4.2%. And we will show in another exhibit later on in the presentation what is driving that. Page 29 shows you the different components of the foundation program. This is the major state education program that provides funding for basically the regular school programs. Here you see Montgomery County will get around $428 million. Now, the additional add-ons to this program, Montgomery County will receive around $40 million under the Geographic Cost Index. And this represents additional funding to school systems that have higher costs. Page 31 will show the amount of funding the county will receive under the Current Blueprint Initiative this year. Montgomery County is scheduled to receive around $27.4 million. This is around $171 per student. Several of these initiatives also reflect high concentration of poverty. You can see that under that component, Montgomery County will get around $4 million, whereas Baltimore City would get around $31 million, and Prince George's $16 million. That kind of reflects the higher poverty in other jurisdictions. Page 33, so page 32, let's go to that page first, shows the amount of funding that is provided to the county for your targeted student populations. This includes the students that are approved for free and reduced price meals, limited English proficiency, and special education. There you can see funding under this program are around $275 million. And here you can see that since Montgomery County has a higher share of students in these different components, it is ranked 14th in the state, much higher than regular direct aid. And page 33 kind of shows you the components that are leading to funding under these initiatives. You can see Montgomery County has the 11th highest targeted student index. And what the targeted student index does is kind of measures the share of the student population in these different targeted groups. And you can see on page 34, in Montgomery County, around 33% of students are approved for free and reduced price meals. Around 18% are English language learners, and around 13% receive special education services. We're now going to shift our focus to another component of education funding, and that is local wealth. And so you can see on page 35, Montgomery County has the 4th highest per pupil wealth amount in the state, but this year it has the lowest increase. So that has a significant effect on the amount of increased funding for the school system. You can see that the other 3 jurisdictions that have higher wealth than Montgomery County are on the eastern shore. It's Worcester County, which has the Ocean City property wealth, Talbot County, and Kent County. Both has a lot of waterfront property. Page 36 shows you the change in per pupil wealth this year. And as you can see that both property wealth and income wealth change in Montgomery County is considerably below the state average. And if you turn to page 37, you can see that Montgomery County is around average with their overall increase in their wealth base, but when you take that into account due to your high increase in your student enrollment, your per pupil wealth increase is below the state average. So that's very important to note. Page 38 provides a comparison on the per capita wealth in the jurisdiction and your per pupil wealth. And it's important that when we are measuring funding for local school systems, we are actually looking at the amount of local tax base that you have for each student enrolled in your local school system, not the overall wealth of your jurisdiction. So you can just look at Howard County and Montgomery County. Howard County has the highest percentage of their population enrolled in public schools. So when you look at wealth on a per capita basis, Howard County is slightly below Montgomery County for property wealth. But when you compare it to the number of students they have in their school system, Howard County tends to be much further below Montgomery County. So that is what we are measuring, is the amount of wealth, the local tax base you have to fund your local students. And page 39 kind of shows you the 2 main components of local wealth. That is your property base and your income base. And the property base makes up around 2/3 of the local wealth measure, and the income base makes up around 1/3. And this is important in that if you look at the overall tax collections that are coming in statewide for those 2 revenue sources, it's around 2/3 property and 1/3 income. So our local wealth measure is actually a good reflection on the actual revenue attainment that is coming into the local governments. And that is what you want. You want your local wealth measure that is allocating state funds to actually mirror the local revenues that are coming in. So we have done a very good job in Maryland in actually capturing the local wealth that's available for local school systems. We are now going to wrap up the presentation by spending a couple of minutes looking at trends in student enrollment. And as you can see on page 40, Montgomery County has the 5th highest increase in the change in the FTE student enrollment count at 1.5%. This will result in an additional 2,400 students in your public school system. Only Prince George's County is growing at a faster rate. Page 41 shows you the change in the number of students that are approved for free and reduced price meals. You can see that in Montgomery County, the number of students that are increasing is 2.6%. Montgomery County has around 52,000 students that are approved for free and reduced price meals, and that is the 3rd highest number in the state. And you have the 16th highest share. So you can see statewide, around 42% of students are approved for free and reduced price meals. It ranges from less than 20% in Calvert and Carroll County to over 80% in Baltimore City. But just look at the number, 42%. I mean, this is basically an index that shows the financial challenges of families that be approved for free and reduced price meals. So a significant amount of our public school students comes from a family background that are facing financial challenges. Page 42 shows the number of students that are identified as English language learners. Around 11% of public school students are English language learners. Montgomery County has the 2nd highest share at around 18%. Around 28,000 students in Montgomery County's public schools are English language learners. And page 43 shows the percentage of students receiving special education services. Montgomery County ranks 8th with the share of students receiving these services at 12.8%. There are around 20,000 students in Montgomery County that are receiving special education services. And finally, on page 44, it kind of shows you what we talked about earlier, the share of the county's population that are enrolled in public schools. And you can see that in Montgomery County has the 6th highest share. 15% of the county's population are public school students. That compares to around 18% in Howard County. And the lowest share is in Kent County, with less than 10% of the county's population are public school students. So I went kind of touched on the highlights. If you go through this document and you have any other questions, I'll be more than willing to stop by your office to walk over the different components of the education funding formula. And there is one more document that is included in your packet. This is the other component of funding for public schools, and that is the local component. So you have a document called the County Revenue Outlook. This goes into a summary of all 24 jurisdictions of the local revenues that are collected from property tax and other local taxes. So that is also available as a reference to you. That's basically the local funding, and the report that I went through is the state funding. So that concludes the presentation. It was pretty quick, but I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you again. We really appreciate coming to this deep dive. Colleagues will now bring up the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. And they brought with them the Maryland Technology Council and Montgomery County Chamber. And I'll just mention this was an initiative of Delegate Chi. We tried to have them in last year, but it was snowed out. So glad to finally working on this year. And with their new leader, who is no stranger to us, Ben Will. If you all can just use the mic.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for inviting the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation to come and give you a status of some of the economic development initiatives that will be undertaken in the county, and also to describe what I call MCEDC 2.0. I'm very pleased that we also have with us today the President and CEO of Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, Gigi Godwin, and also the President of the Maryland Technology Council, Marty Rosendale, who are two of our strongest partners and who we'll be working with as we try to transform Montgomery County's economic development. I'm also very pleased for the invitation and the opportunity to be here with you. In my previous role as the former Deputy Secretary of Commerce, I had a chance to work with many of you, and I understand you know the importance of engaging with legislative leaders and thought leaders such as the members of the General Assembly. So I want to affirm to all of you that we will be reaching out to you and working closely with you as we try to help strengthen the county's economic development. And I also want to particularly note the presence of our board chair, Robbie Brewer, and also our vice chair, Ola Sage. The fact that our board chair and our vice chair are here this morning in Annapolis further underscores our commitment to working with this delegation and with the General Assembly as we seek to work with all of our partners to try to transform and strengthen our county's economic development. So we have had a growing recognition from our elected officials and from our business community that economic development must be a top priority for our county. And for those of you who had a chance to hear the county executive's State of the County speech the other week, I think that reaffirmed it as well. In Bethesda Magazine, in their coverage, their headline said that county executive promises economic development growth. And you also heard it from new council president Sid Katz in his inauguration speech back in December, where he said that economic development must be a top priority for the county and will be during his tenure. And so what we're seeing is an alignment of the stars that are indicating that we must focus and do what we can to make sure that our economy continues to grow, that we are able to provide a strong tax base and create good jobs for our citizens, and create a strong tax base, a revenue base to support our schools, our quality of life, and all the things that make Montgomery County so special. So, we are committed to working with all of these stakeholders in that effort. And for those of you who are a little bit unfamiliar with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, as the chairman noted, Delegate Chi was a real leader in helping County Executive Leggett transform the Department of Economic Development to a public-private partnership led by a board of directors of business executives back in 2016 to create the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. And for those of you who have a chance, you can take a look at the packet that we have in each of your desks. It talks a little bit about the background about the MCDC, also gives you a sample of some of the work, the research, including the joint economic indicators for the county. As we move forward to try to engage all of you in this transformation on economic development, in many ways, I'm reminded of where we are now back in 2014, when I had a chance to work with many of you to restructure and reform the state's economic development. Back in 2014, we were able to take the Augustine Commission recommendations that were enacted by the General Assembly and to create a new structure for economic development for the state. And that included the creation of the Department of Commerce, It also included the establishment of the Commerce Cabinet, led by Department of Commerce. It also included the creation of the Maryland Marketing Partnership, and it restructured the economic development focus so that we could include all corners of the state, as well as to continue to try to have a regional focus and to provide exceptional customer service. And working with all of you, we were able to do all this, and as a result, the state continues to lead the Mid-Atlantic region in job growth. We've been able to reduce unemployment by almost 2 full percentage points in the state, and we continue to be a leader in the last quarter. According to the federal labor numbers, we were one of the top states of the country. And so what we want to do is to take the success that we've seen in the state and take that template and bring it to Montgomery County to be able to restructure and to continue to grow our economy. We also recognize that the MCDC cannot by itself do all of this. We need to have external partners that we can count on and rely on, and to be a real partner in some of these efforts. And they include the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce with all the great work they do, as well as the Maryland Technology Council. And we also are looking to aggressively partner with our state counterparts as well, from the Maryland Department of Commerce on cyber security and life sciences, to the Department of Housing and Development for opportunity zones, and DetectCo to continue to support entrepreneurship and innovation. So we intend to use the MCDC platform to be able to leverage our resources and our assets with those in the state, as well as within the community, within organizations that have a shared mission of supporting economic development. And I also want to talk a little bit about what we're doing within the MCDC internally. We have brought on some terrific folks who have significant expertise and experience, who have a real commitment to Montgomery County to help transform ourselves internally. And I would like to be able to recognize some of them. Bill Tompkins, our new executive vice president and COO, who served as the interim during the search for the CEO. Also, Nadia Khan, who is our business economic development specialist, who helped put this event together, working with Michelle and the delegation. Brad Stewart, our new senior vice president for business development, who is a seasoned life science executive, who many of you know through his leadership in both the Maryland Technology Council and also for Maryland Life Sciences. And Kristen O'Keefe, who used to be here with me at the General Assembly, who had also spent some time with Montgomery College. And Kristen is going to be our new vice president for communications and marketing. And we're also going to be bringing on additional staff too, to be able to bring us the kind of expertise and experience that we would like to continue to move our county's economic development forward. We also are very interested in working on a number of initiatives related to economic development that impact the state as well. They include the opportunity zones, making sure that we continue to take advantage of the federal programs, which the governor has offered supplemental state services that would make opportunity zones one of the most attractive opportunities for any state in the country. And we have 14 opportunity zones in Montgomery County that would be able to help investment in lower income communities. And we also want to be very aggressive in working on technology transfer and innovation and entrepreneurship, being able to continue to promote Montgomery County's technology-led economic development, and to work with our state partners such as TechCo and the Department of Commerce there. We also want to be able to take advantage of the Purple Line Innovation District and the creation of the Purple Line in factory innovation districts for the Purple Line in the lower part of Montgomery County. We also have the opportunity to show collaboration with our other jurisdictions and to show that Montgomery County is going to be a leader with Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, Howard County, Charles County, and those in the Greater Washington region to be able to come together and to create initiatives that strengthen our state regionally and also within the Greater Washington region as well. And we'll also be focusing on trying to make sure that all of our steps that we take also create an inclusive economy so that we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion of businesses in the success of our county's efforts. So that is a small sample of some of the things that we'll be doing. For now, I want to turn it over to both Gigi and Marty to talk a little bit about some of the great initiatives that the Chamber as well as the Fed Council will be doing that we hope will be partnering with to be able to take Montgomery County's economic development and strengthen it and turn it into a new level that we can help sustain our county and our state's growth.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. And first of all, good morning, delegation members. And I so appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. My name is Gigi Godwin, and it's my privilege to serve as the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for your ongoing support of our Veteran Institute for Procurement. As you know, it's a national program that's headquartered right in Montgomery County. And for the last 8 years, you've ensured this pivotal funding remains a part of the state's budget. So I want to start by saying thank you. Proactive legislation. We've said many times that you should consider us, and you have considered us, as your trusted source and resource on so many issues that are important to us. Together, we've brainstormed on transportation funding, unmet housing needs, all sorts of streamlining of processes for our small businesses. We've worked on that together. Financial supports for our small veteran-owned businesses and shared best practices, and so many other proposals. Speaking of specific proposals, we'd like to bring up and just bring to your attention one item of legislation that we would love your co-sponsorship on, that we do believe has a role in economic development and supports our environmental objectives, and that is Delegate Emily Shetty's bill that would charge the state with developing a green business certification program that's mirrored off of Montgomery County's green business certification program. Our chamber initiated that program and worked in partnership with the Department of Environmental Protection. Oh my goodness. We're getting work done over there. I guess we're going to multitask here. That's good. But we started that program with Montgomery College and Department of Environmental Protection and partnership. And here we are a decade later, and we have so many companies who were incentivized to green their procurement practices. And of course, that's the wave of the future. And so our county's been able to lead in that. We would love to see the state continue on and expand that effort, especially with the state's growing interests and concerns, which we share, about not only our environment, but our climate. So we hope that you'll give that favorable consideration. I hope you don't mind that plug. Thumbs up over there. Okay, good. But I really want to close by saying this. There's so much more to say. The Chamber advocated more than a decade ago, and many of you were part of that discussion and supported our recommendation that there be an independent economic development entity in the county. And here we are a decade later, and we're so excited to have Ben Wu here. I want to say thank you for including us in this discussion, to lead this effort. The Chamber is really excited about the leadership, the entire leadership, Ben and the whole team that is there and that he's grown. In addition to his expertise in recruiting and retaining some of our best employees in the state, Ben understands the importance of advocacy. So this is our happy place at the Chamber. We're really happy to be working in partnership with you and to take it to a whole new level. We're looking forward to strengthening relationships with MCEDC as their partnership and advocacy with our elected leaders on proactive and meaningful proposals and policies that will really grow our economy. As the report we all heard makes clear, we're going to have to actually grow Montgomery County's base. We have to expand it in order to meet all of these strong needs, and that's really what we're about. So a strong tax base and an economy is going to ensure that we have access to the systems and programs that have always made, and we want to count on the future, them making us the best place to be, the most important and best place for all of our citizens to be, and to attract others to us. So I'm going to stop there because I know you have a lot to do today, but I want to thank you, Ben, and I want to thank our delegation for your continued passion, your advocacy, your support of our business community, especially our small and mid-sized companies, and in our efforts to work together on advocacy. We're looking forward to working with you, not only in this legislative session, but in those to come. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Ben, thank you for inviting us this morning, and thank you all for your time. I'm Marty Rosendale. I'm the CEO of the Maryland Technology Council. 36 years ago, the Montgomery High-Tech Council, Montgomery County High-Tech Council, was formed to support the technology industry in Montgomery County. Today, we're the Maryland Technology Council, and we support all of the technology and life sciences companies throughout the state. But I want to give you a little bit of information. So that support, in addition to working with you, we help our members with connections. We help them connect to one another. We help them connect with investors and potential partners. We provide cost savings to our members. We estimate that we save our members about $12 million per year in cost savings. And we provide educational and mentorship opportunities for our members to support them. But fundamentally, our role is to help our members, the technology and life science companies in Maryland, succeed. We have 440 members today. But you should know that 162 of those members are Montgomery County companies. That's twice as many as the membership that we have in Baltimore, and 5 times as many as the members that we have in any other city or county throughout Maryland. So when you consider the fact that we are here in Maryland one of the largest hubs for life science and technologies throughout the country, ranked 4th or 5th, I believe, the core of that hub is Montgomery County. And that's important to understand. Now, we have had a long collaboration with Montgomery County and Montgomery County Economic Development, which certainly we appreciate, and that collaboration will continue. But a sense of, just to give you a sense of the types of programs and support that we provide, because of a sponsorship that we were able to get from Montgomery County, we were able to license a mentoring platform from MIT. Today, I believe that mentoring service, the venture mentoring service that we have, is one of the most sophisticated and successful programs of its kind in the state of Maryland. When I look at the incubators and the accelerators and the other similar programs around the state, I don't know that anyone can compare with the statistics that we have and the success that we've been able to demonstrate. So today in that program, after just over 3 years of operation, we have 45 ventures that we're mentoring, and we have 109 trained mentors. Now, within Montgomery County, because that's where the program began, we have, of those 45 ventures, 31 of them are Montgomery County companies. Of those trained mentors, 78 of them, or 72%, are executives from Montgomery County. And you should know that this program is provided free to the ventures. The mentors that volunteer are volunteers, and they're an amazing group of leaders that have come together to make this happen. That group, those mentors, have helped the companies raise $55 million over that time. And of that $55 million, $47 million has been for companies in Montgomery County. So it's been an amazing program. It wouldn't have gotten started without the support of Montgomery County. But our ability to go to MIT, to bring this platform, to expand it here, and the ability now to continue the collaboration on these types of projects that support our membership, support life sciences, support technology in Montgomery County and in the state, it looks very promising. And I want to close on a more personal note. I find that with the change in leadership, with Ben coming on, Ben mentioned his leadership team, Bill, Brad, We've got Gigi. I mean, there are so many amazing things happening in the county right now. We have a tremendous combination of highly experienced, successful economic developers in the leadership, but we also have former business operating executives like myself and Brad in combination, and I think it presents a powerful combination for collaboration and the opportunity to strengthen that collaboration. We had our leadership dinner on Wednesday evening, and our keynote speaker was Linda Singh, the new interim CEO for TEDCO, and she laid down a challenge. She said that we need to double, even triple the number of startup companies that we encourage and help build in the state. And I think it goes a little bit beyond that. We do need to do that. We do need to double and triple the number of startup companies that we can support in the state and in the Montgomery County. But then we need to help them. We need to help them into the incubators. We need to help them out of the incubators. We need to continue to support them so that they move from development companies to growth companies and help build the economy going forward. And I think we have the leadership. I think we have the opportunity to expand on collaborations that already exist. And for me, the future looks very, very promising in Montgomery County and throughout Maryland. So thank you again for your time, and Ben, thank you for the opportunity this morning.
Thank you all. Let me just mention that Sarah Miller on your team is very helpful in keeping wage wells in District 16, so Delegate Montgomery, and I thank you for that. Any questions? Delegate Leakey?
Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming today and for your work. So we heard earlier this morning a report from DLS that said, among other things, that we're continuing a trend that we've seen the last few years in the county, where Montgomery County is growing relatively less wealthy compared to the rest of the state of Maryland. And this follows on the recent reports that for the last few years, Prince George's County has been competing or even beating us in terms of job creation. So my question is kind of a fundamental one. Is the county falling behind in terms of competing regionally? And if so, why?
Delegate, Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. And also, as the General Assembly debates the issue about the sports gaming referendum, when I had my article written about my appointment, a number of the articles all talked about the many challenges that Montgomery County is facing and that MCDC would face into the future. And so they conclude that if there were odds, the odds would be wrong on our success. But I think that we do have a great number of outstanding opportunities for us. We are looking to transform and restructure the way that we do economic development. Sunday is also Groundhog Day. And if you call it the movie, Bill Murray went through a recurring situation every day until he finally changed. And the movie concluded very optimistically once that change was made. We're going to make that change. The county executive has made a commitment on economic development. The council president has made economic development a top priority. We see unanimity throughout the council that this must be a task that we need to undertake. And we're working with key partners within the industry, such as the Chamber and also the Tech Council. So I'm very optimistic about the future, but we do need to restructure the way that we do economic development. And so working with the General Assembly, we plan to undertake those tasks. We do want to leverage the assets that we have in Montgomery County. While you've seen in the Robert McCartney pieces in the Washington Post about how we fare relative to D.C. and Northern Virginia and even to our friends over next door in Prince George's County, there is still a lot of room for optimism. Our unemployment is still top within the state. 25% of the state's GDP, one of every $4 flows through our county. Number two is Baltimore City, 15%. So we have a huge advantage and the assets on the federal level with our federal laboratories, with the companies that Marty talked about, his members over the Tech Council, Gigi's members. We have top 100 Fortune 500 companies that we need to have a greater relationship engagement with to be able to support those businesses as well as small businesses. And we also are facing a very diverse set of circumstances for businesses and business owners. We have the opportunity to grow the county through our opportunity zones. We also have the chance to be able to utilize the purple line for development, for transferring development, as potentially to also help support affordable housing opportunities there as well. So the future is bright in my view. And working with our partners, our external stakeholders, working with elected officials and thought leaders throughout the region and throughout the country, we intend to transform economic development in Montgomery County.
May I add to that? Could I add to that? I just want to say that we were focusing on our partnership because that's the purpose of this discussion, but I want you to know also that we do a lot of programming at the Chamber, and we've been very focused on a huge part of our economy, which are our federal contractors. And it's very important for them to have the opportunity, our small businesses, to continue for a longer period. So you know us in terms of our county and state work, but we also advocate at the federal level, and we developed the legislation and got it enacted. It was a bipartisan effort, and I have to thank Senator Cardin for that, to get the Small Business Runway Extension Act so our small business federal contractors could stay in their size standards longer. This is an economic imperative for Montgomery County because Montgomery County is #1 in the nation for health IT firms, small businesses. It's held to HHS and FDA and NIH. And it's #2 for all small businesses. That could be facilities or any number of other things. We're the home of federal contractors. It is hugely important that they are able to be successful in our county and, of course, our state. So we're very focused on what are the obstacles to success, how do we help them be successful, because those are also, that goes to the issue of the higher paying jobs. So we have cyber companies, all sorts of companies that do offer good jobs. I would say one of the things that's keeping all those companies up at night is talent attraction, the cost of living in Montgomery County, which is a whole, that goes to the other things I mentioned, transportation, housing, huge issue. So we're having those are huge obstacles. And you have to have the right talent in companies like that. That's how they win and retain contracts. So that's such a central, the ecosystem of this issue is really important to our economic success. The thing that also we've been talking about is how do we attract new companies. So happily, VIP, which has almost 500 Maryland companies out of its 1,400 companies that are graduating, we're attracting other companies to come because we're the national headquarters. We want to work with MCEDC. Ben and I have already talked about how can we get those companies to get a foothold here because their customers are here. So it's an opportunity for us to look in terms of net new. How do we grow by bringing net new companies from around the region, around the country, for that matter, around the world?
And we're real different between Montgomery County and the other counties is the quality of our jobs. The fact that out of the almost 20,000 jobs that we created over the past 5 years, the average pay is $109,000. Also, we were able to have in 2018 a record year for venture capital that far exceeded any other county, even regionally, over $600 million. And we've also seen our life sciences industry grow by 30% over the course of the past year or so, or the past 10 years. So we have strong indicators. Part of the job of the EDC is not just to continue to support traction, retention, expansion of our businesses, but we want to also aggressively continue to rebrand and to change the narrative about Montgomery County's economic development performance. Because I think lost in some of the perceptions about the way the county operates is this perception, feeling that Montgomery County isn't performing well. And while we can improve our performance, the county executive has made a commitment to do so, and will be offering performance towards that end. I think we will see some change in the culture of the county. but we also want to make sure that the good news stories about what's going on in Montgomery County aren't lost. Just for example, last Wednesday, just a few days ago, we celebrated Vigene's new 71,000 square foot building in Rockville. And the company has their mission of trying to make cell and gene therapies available to impact, to help those with rare diseases. And not only are they helping to save lives, but they're growing jobs. They're going to double their job force, expected to, from 100 to 200 within the next 2 years. So we see the growth. We need to tell that story. That's part of what EBC's mission will be.
Not to be left out, a little bit that I'd like to add. So Ben mentioned Vigene. There are some amazing things happening in Montgomery County that are going to contribute to the growth. Montgomery County is the core of the hub for cell and gene therapy, I think possibly in the world. If you look back historically, Bethesda Research Laboratories and what they did to initiate that industry, later Life Technologies, Invitrogen, and how that's evolved into what has become the cell and gene therapy industry within Montgomery County, within the state. Well, today, those companies are maturing. Some of them are commercial, some of them are becoming commercial, and it's creating a fascinating and rapidly growing advanced biomanufacturing industry. So Vigene is expanding. Other companies in the space are expanding. This is going to create some great jobs. This is going to create exciting STEM jobs for people that don't necessarily want to get higher education, higher degrees, but are excited about working in STEM. It's going to create hundreds of jobs to support them. All of that's happening in Montgomery County. And sure, we need to focus on infrastructure, we've got housing issues, but if you look at it from a higher level, if you're a millennial and you like living in a metro area, you can do that in Montgomery County. If you want to live in the suburbs, you can do that in Montgomery County. If you're like me and you're married to an equestrian and so you want to live out in the country a little bit where you can have horses, you can do that in Montgomery County. And so we can attract the workforce, we can retain the workforce that's supporting these amazing industries that are building right here. And again, through collaboration and doing what we each do best, I think we can accomplish some great things.
Delegate Sharpie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for coming to your presentation and for all your work in the county. I wanted to ask a little bit about, you mentioned Purple Line, so I'm a big supporter, thrilled. It's really crucial to all of what you talked about in terms of transportation infrastructure. The concern, I represent District 20, so I have the Crossroads area, the Long Branch area, and then downtown Silver Spring. And so the concern is that the impact of that is going to be unequitable, right? So we have a lot of businesses in those areas that small businesses, mom and pop shops, women-owned businesses, and that the impact of the Purple Line, without better planning, and there's been a number of people sort of looking at this issue, but that the impact really is going to be we're bringing a new kind of economic development, some of the same institutions, all of that could be also important, but that those who have been there made sacrifices for their businesses really become the core of those communities won't be able to survive the transition. So I know this is a big issue with a lot of conversations happening. We've had Delegate Wilkins has had some legislation in to help people through the transition of the construction, but the concern goes even beyond construction to just, as the property values go up. And recently, after the General Assembly passed some additional tax credits around the opportunity zones and the empowerment zones, and there's sort of all those layers, and it gets confusing quickly. We had folks from the Economic Development Corporation and also from the State and Commerce Department, and we brought a group of folks together with the Long Branch Business, the Small Business Association there. We sort of spent several hours going through everything and looking at each other and sort of concluding that within a whole wide range of state and county supports, there was very little really for the businesses that were there. And so it's a broader concern, it's part of a bigger conversation. There's not really a specific question, except just to ask you to comment on that and how within this bigger structure of the importance of bringing in more institutions, more technological institutions, we don't lose folks who have made personal sacrifices to own businesses in our communities, end up displacing them, which happens a lot around really what start out as really well-intentioned with good transit projects, and that aspect of business development is sort of celebrated and supported as well.
Thank you, Delegate, for the question. It is a sensitive question. It's an important one. There is a Purple Line Coalition that seeks to try to engage the community, the elected officials as well as those in the community, business owners, and there's a great interest from the coalition and from us as an organization to try to preserve the small businesses, minority-owned businesses, especially since there are, as you mentioned, a number of immigrant-owned businesses as well that are important to the fabric of the county's business development. And so what we would like to do is continue to have that dialogue, to engage with all the affected stakeholders through the coalition and also in other efforts as well. And I think that we had this similar argument that when the Metro was being instituted, red line, in both Silver Spring and also the western part of the county. And in order for there to be success, there has to be a dialogue, there has to be communication. And so we look forward to working with you and the Purple Line Coalition to be able to address some of these concerns. The impact on small businesses, especially minority and immigrant-owned businesses, is one that we do take as a concern and as a priority in trying to ensure that with the success of the Purple Line also doesn't change the fabric of the community as well.
Other questions? Delegate Sullivan?
Thank you for being here. I have sort of a two-part question dealing with University of Shady Grove. So I know we've all talked a lot about the sort of job engine that can create and supplying the labor force for students that are coming here. And obviously with the report that came out in December, it seems like USG is sort of at a turning point as it matures. So I guess the two-part question is, more general, first, what should we be looking at to support USG? And then more specifically, one of the recommendations in the report that caught my eye was a more robust internship program to connect the students at USG with the companies in the region. And I'm wondering if there's potential for the chamber or working with the economic development corporations to sort of work with USG to create that internship program. And again, sort of more generally, what should we be thinking about down here to help USG grow?
Well, I have the privilege of serving on the board of advisors for USG, and with Dr. Edelstein's departure coming up this summer, there is a lot of discussion about the future of USG and how USG can be strengthened institutionally within the USM system, but also within the community as well. And we have within the EDC offered our services to try to help USG be placed in a way that will allow it to continue to grow, but also to potentially expand its mission to look at research and other graduate degree programs. And the opportunity for internships is one that is certainly on the table, and there will be some discussion, I think, within the county council on that, and probably within the state as well. So the Board of Regents is undertaking this review right now. It's timely, given Stu's departure coming up this summer, to take a look at the future of where USG will be within the institutions in the USM system, but also how we can continue to use USG successfully as an anchor for Montgomery County.
I'd like to add something. I did offer testimony on behalf of the Chamber when Universities of Shady Grove had a series of discussions on this. And from the business community's point of view, which is broad, our business community is everybody from construction to healthcare to cybersecurity and defense and all sorts of, and general services, financial services. And what the business community our overall sense of it is that Universities of Shady Grove has done but could do more in the direction of being able to be responsive. And it's because it's more of an authority issue, is how much can they do, how quickly can they make a decision and put something. So internships would be a good example, internships, apprenticeships, but also in some of the incredible technological work that they're doing where they can work with companies. We we have a lot of companies that want to be able to work with them on some of the amazing lab space they've created. So it's a bigger subject. So they've got the facility, but do they have the authority to act? Can they respond in real time? So what would be helpful is to take a look at that as opposed to a specific issue, but rather can they respond to those or other issues and other opportunities as they arise?
USG and the institutions that support USG have been looking to help support the county's tech pipeline. And Montgomery College has been also very much a leader in that as well, trying to help companies develop curriculums that allow for certification and for entry-level positions to help ensure that we have the highly talented, highly skilled workforce necessary to sustain our county's economy.
If I could just add to all that. So we've been working closely with USG as well, and I'd like to say that Ben and the Department of Commerce had the foresight to see the value of internships and what they could do. So we also have been developing an internship platform that we've been working with USG, Montgomery College, and others that will help connect industry to potential interns. But we're going so far, right now we're making plans to move our Montgomery County office into the Biotechnology, Science, and Engineering facility at USG, again, to bring it closer to the universities there and to help facilitate those connections. We also provide the voice of industry at Montgomery College to help support their programs and drive their STEM curriculum, which then feeds into USG. So I'm bringing this all up because there's a lot going on now. Workforce and workforce development, as Gigi said, is a big issue for all of our companies. And I think the collaboration and the development is going well. There's certainly more that we can do and will do, but I think it's the progress is good and it's going well at this point.
Chief.
Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate our chairman arranging this important briefing, and I'm excited to see Ben taking over to help, and appreciate the whole team coming over to Annapolis. I hope to see more of you around. Economic development is critical to the county's future. And I'm also excited to see Brent and his expertise. I appreciate the volume of leadership over the years, including NCDC. I think all of us here want to help in whatever way we can. So one thing I would urge you to do is to be more direct. We all read the Washington Post articles about Montgomery County not doing the kind of jobs we want to work. I even know unemployment rate is historically low, but it's not the kind of job that people want to take. And because we have great school districts, people are attracted to Montgomery County. And then you couple that with lack of job growth, that means terrible trafficking, right? So people have to drive longer and longer to pursue good jobs. You can't live yourself out of this mess. We need to, what's called the missing middle of all of this. But my point is, let's hear from more directly what we need to do. If it means do no harm, like Columbia and I said a few years ago, but number one rule for elected officials is to do no harm to the community through legislation that inadvertently would hurt business growth. With all good intentions, every bill is trying to solve some problem. But sometimes we do things that inadvertently shoot ourselves in the foot. And you won't hear small businesses losing because they don't grab headlines. It's called the death 5,000 cuts. And that is over time we are losing so many jobs that are not growing or expanding because they are choosing to expand somewhere else, right? So I think we just need to be more honest and direct in our conversations, and I appreciate Delegate question, which is what is the reason? What can we do to help basically? So if you think we should stop introducing legislation that would single out Montgomery County businesses, then we need you to say it. So finally, my question is, to each of you, Marty's organization, which is a membership organization, and Gigi's, which is also a membership organization, have an advocacy list of bills that you want to support or oppose this session, because we need to know in order to make sure we're on the same page actually help the county.
So the quick answer is yes. We do have an advocacy list of bills that we're either supporting or defending against. I think, as you point out, Lily, our objective is to protect our members and to support our members. So things like tax credits for biotechnology, investor tax credit, which has been tremendous for our membership, the R&D tax credit, other tax credits, those are all very important to us. I think a number of you have probably heard me say that there are a number of large life science and technology hubs throughout the country. If you look at where they're located in other high corporate tax states, so that's not something that is a barrier to forming large, productive life science and technology hubs. But those states all spend a lot of time and effort supporting the industries. They provide incentives, they provide tax credits, they provide investment opportunities. And that's what a big part of our focus is this year.
We have lists too. And we also have Vice President of Government Relations, Tricia Swanson. It's a good opportunity to wave Tricia as if you don't already all know her. I know you do. We'll get you lists, and of course we'll be here testifying on all of them. But, overall, the do no harm is important. You have to appreciate that in today's day and age, we're in the 21st century, companies can do business anywhere. And so where they put their feet, where they decide to take office space, is going to go to issues of whether it allows them to be competitive in what is a global economy. Even the smallest firms have global competitors, certainly regional. And this is an issue for every industry. The government contractors all have their feet in the commercial space too. If they don't today, they will tomorrow because of all the cyber requirements on the commercial side. So some people say, well, why focus on government contractors? Number one, it's our biggest chunk of our economy, and number two, they're going commercial because they're best able to compete there. So keep your eye on that. But they can, number three, go any place. And so I think in Maryland, and I'm a big fan of I love Montgomery County. I raised my family here. I've lived here for many decades. But we're one state, Montgomery County and Maryland need to remain competitive. And we have to think about the cost of doing business. And it's like an athlete that goes to the Olympic training camp. They're trying to shave seconds off their time so that they can compete in a tough global market. The same is true for our businesses, especially our technology companies, whether they're biotech or anything else. Also, I think we actually are a friendly environment for startups. The thing is if they become profitable, can we hold on to them? And so you have to look to that. And the third piece is that in the end, corporations don't make decisions, human beings do. And so are we thinking about those individuals that become high wealth and, what are the decisions they're going to make about where they put themselves and their employees? So I would say that you have to take into consideration many issues, the unintended consequences potentially of decisions. Again, never before have people had more options about where to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I think we're going to have to move on to our committee reports unless Delegate Lovelace has a quick question.
I do. I'll try to be as quick as possible. So one of the things that I noticed in your handouts is that 59% of our residents have bachelor's degrees and 32% have graduate degrees. And my first response is, wow, that's a lot of smart people. And the second is, that's probably a lot of student loan debt. So in your work, have you covered any research, or do your organizations have a general philosophy about the impact of student loan debt?
Quick question, quick answers for a complicated
issue. I'll follow up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
You have to chat a bit more about that tonight.
Thank you again for coming, colleagues. We're now going to return
Mr.
to our
members of the delegation, thank you very much.
Education, Elections, and Housing Committee report. And Delegate Queen, can I recommend you do the competition one last?
That is exactly what I think to do. I want to thank everyone, especially from the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee for your work on this. We want to take NC 820 first. This is the public financing for the Board of Education. Not much debate on that. The committee was all faithful of that proposal, that bill, so it's moved the bill.
Second. Delegate Bill, Delegate seconds. Any discussion?
Where were the council and executive on this one?
Understanding that they were favorable, the executive and county council on 820. Public finance for board support.
have supported the council, said it, I mean, I guess took no position because the question was why those positions versus other elected officials as well.
Okay.
Further discussion? Dave? Okay, all in favor of MC 820, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
All right. MC 1420, this was, again, this is a bill to allow, to have an inspector general add the inspector general as part of, the Montgomery County Public Schools is part of the neighborhood legislation that would have an inspector general oversight. This is one I think we did get feedback from the county on. They were in support of that, correct?
Yes.
Or did that change?
Yes, the county executive and county council support.
All right. This was also supported unanimously by the committee. So we move the bill.
So the committee moves the bill, they will move the second. Is there any discussion or debate? Okay, all those in favor of MC 1420, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
All right. I'm handing you a document about MC 1320. This is the bill related to compensation for the Board of Education. And so just wanted to give some insight into the process that the committee took to come to some numbers. So I want to give you a chance to get the little handout if you don't have it. A lot of the information came from the commission's report. In the commission's report, there was interviews and feedback from existing Board of Election members, previous Board of Election members. They had input from the county's director of budgeting, as well as the makers of the bill. There was a discussion about in the report how should these numbers be derived. A lot of the conversation was about using maybe the size of the budget, the size of the school, the number of employees, that would give you some insight into workload for the commission, for the Board of Education. The report also provides some comparables in terms of looking at other states, in terms of their number of size, their budget, number of employees, the number of schools, and compensation. And that was a wide range. We were basically both sides. If you looked at a bell curve, with some zero compensation, with the highest compensation being, I think, $125,000. And that was for a school system in Los Angeles, which is almost 4.5 times the size of our school, and almost that amount of budget. So I did also look at, we also looked at some of the feedback that the commission did. They did a survey of constituents as well as the constituents gave some input into their thoughts about what does the school board do? Did you understand the workload that they have? Do you understand that they are compensated? And do you think this compensation is too low, about right, or too high? About 36% thought it was too low. About 26% said it was about even, and 19% said it was too high. Basically, we had more people thinking it was about right or too high. They also looked at the salary of the student and thought 46% thought it should stay the same. Also, there was questions about the recommendation of the compensation. Should it be reduced? Should it be not changed? Or should it be increased? And again, you had 21% said to reduce it, 25% said no change, 41% said to increase it. So again, we had more people saying to reduce it or not change it. And then another insightful question, this is coming from our constituents, in terms of why should someone run for the school board, and he listed several factors such as your impact to the community, policy making, level of service, whether it's career development or stepping ladder, as well as compensation. And the lowest factor there was people felt that 21% said, the least reason you were running for a school board is about compensation. So again, even with that, I went back to the commission to ask if there any other insight that we may be able to use to come up with a number, because again, the feeling was there should be some compensation, but was 60,000 the right number? And so I asked them for any more insight. What I got back was information on the last time the salary compensation was raised back in 2014. At that point in time, the compensation went from $18.5 thousand to $25,000, which is roughly a $6,500 increase, which is roughly about a 38% increase over what was a 6-year period. And so with that information, we looked at the numbers, understanding that the $60,000 increase is a 140% increase. And so we looked at numbers that would be more comparable to what was done before. Also, when the conversation was held in 2014 about the salary, Fairfax County was one of the comparables that was listed. And so we looked at that information as well. Fairfax County, as you see, has roughly about 180,000 students, a little more, 20-some thousand more than we do. They have a budget of $3.8 million. Our budget is $2.6 billion. There's $3.8 billion for them. They have 24,000 employees, a little more than us. They have a little less schools, 198 to 208 of ours. Their compensation is $32,000 a year. Ours is Montgomery County is currently $25,000 a year, and so that's how we derive the $35,000 number. And our recommendations was to make it over a much less period than the 6-year period, so they would get that increase, I believe, over 4 years. Any questions?
First of all, Delegate Queen, thank you so much. I know this was a complicated undertaking, and I know the committee member was adopted, or at least the bill was passed unanimously through the committee.
Correct. So it was passed with 2 amendments. The first amendment is to raise the salary for the members from $25,000 to $35,000 over 2 increments, and to allow the president's salary to go from $29,000 to $39,000 over 2 increments. That's the first amendment. I'd like to move that amendment.
Second. There's the amendment. Delegate Kaiser seconds. Is there discussion on the amendment?
Does the amendment?
Delegate Wilkins.
Yes. In terms of the scholarship for the student member?
That's the second amendment.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Any discussion on the first amendment? All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And once we settled on at the amount for the members, we wanted to look at parity for the student member. So because the report talked to the idea of allowing students to have some sort of stipend, meaning having some sort of compensation now while they were performing the job, and then to look at scholarship, the committee decided to break up the amount of stipend to be $10,000 and $25,000 for scholarship for the student member. And again, that is over the same time frame as the amendments. We would like to move that amendment.
Sorry. Delegate Queen's amendment. Delegate the second on the Delegate Wilkins for discussion. Delegate Wilkins second. This previous second. In line.
So in terms of can you just explain the scholarship a little bit more? Reading over the amendment. So if this, depending on, so it's $25,000, and depending on the type of school that the student goes to? Is it any school, in-state, out-of-state? What happens? It's a certain amount per year. So can you just talk more about how the scholarship part would work for a student?
Sure, I don't believe the scholarship part changed in what they do now. They will get that $25,000 towards any school that they may send.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. They went to Montgomery College or they went to state.
So this part I'm saying, so that increases over time as well, though.
That is correct.
And then, so with the 25,000, if they don't use that amount fully in their first year of school, does it just stay in an account and they can continue to access it? Is it
That's
just
why I
until
don't know if someone else would answer that.
That is correct. So as chair of the commission, they can access that money for its entirety, for 2 years, 6 years, for as long as they choose to be in school. If they don't choose to go to post-secondary, that is another discussion.
It's not a lifetime.
It's not a lifetime. It should be used up until 6 years. So if they don't go to post-secondary, that includes ACTE or advanced level courses outside of a formal institution, they still have access to those funds.
Delegate Kaiser?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a similar related question. I'm imagining some of our snobs are so talented they're getting full rides to their four-year schools. Full rides into the Ivy League, they're that good. Again, what would happen in those cases?
Well, in those cases, they still have access to those funds. They can also use those funds for tuition, for books, and for housing, including dorms on college, which a lot of the snobs have used that, and it's not even gone for the full amount. I think over 4 years it's a lot more.
Delegate Moon?
So, I wasn't planning on weighing in on this question, but now that I hear there's a question as to what happens if the student chooses not to go to school, I think this is highly problematic. The point they become 18 years old and they have this money sitting there and they decide they want to just go work for Amazon in Virginia, sadly, but they decide that's what they want to do. I kind of think that's their money. Why are we holding it in any sort of escrow for them? They earned it the same way the other board members would have earned it.
So I will suggest that possibly a third amendment that has been offered might address your concern. We could wait on that.
Delegate Dume?
So I'm going to be the unpopular one, but under the existing law, a student member may not receive compensation, but can be reimbursed for expenses. And the scholarship or the funds are $5,000. Now, I'm not going to stand in the way, but these are high school students who are highly talented, as Delegate Kaiser indicated. But this is, I never thought this was supposed to be an experience that they would be compensated for. It was sort of an educational experience, whatever. $35,000 total between the scholarship money, whatever, that, means you're working full time at about, $15 to $18 an hour. I said, I'm not going to stand in the way. What do other states do on this? As the chart doesn't say that. And I think this is, except I'm looking for opportunities for young people, but this is a lot of money. When I always thought when a student board member we decided to do that, which I think was before my time, this was sort of an educational opportunity for a student to sort of be involved in the process. And, I'm not sure
So I think we tried to take in part of that sort of sentiment in our conversation, and that's why the stipend and scholarship amount was sort of broken out. So we looked at, we read and we looked at the testimony that we received and comments that we received, that these student members do a lot of work on the board, and that if they had a part-time job, they wouldn't be allowed to have a part-time job that paid minimum wage.
And they wouldn't make $35,000.
No, they wouldn't make $35,000, but they would make closer to $10,000 in a part-time job. So that's why the $10,000 stipend came up. But the concept,
where's the 35?
well,
25, sorry.
The $25,000 started off with the concept that was raised in the report and was raised, I believe, here along with the testimony that they should be equally compensated. And so taking that as the premise, that's where we got the $25,000 going towards education. We do believe, as you said, most of our students who are SMOGs go to some of the elite schools, and the cost of education is very high, and so the thought of $5,000 in scholarship money is not really significant. When our average cost.
What, if anything, do other states do for students?
That I don't know about the students. That I did not have a lot of information on. I don't know.
In Prince George's County, the student receives $40,000 as a scholarship.
Okay.
Delegate Barban?
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that equal work should have equal compensation. One of the trends in the modern American economy that I find troubling is this trend to have interns who work for pennies, even though they do, work that would ordinarily be better compensated. If it were just up to me, I'd just give them the $35,000 and let them decide how to spend it. I feel very strongly about this as a principal. So, obviously splitting it as 10,000 and 25,000 is a bit of a compromise that I'm willing to live with. But for up to me, I just flatly pay them the $35K and be done with it.
Delegate Moon?
I just would point out, this puts students who, as we've noted many times, might not choose a four-year college track, and that we need to expand offerings for other paths and to not assume that that's the route. It puts those students on a different footing and starts to make assumptions about what we think a young person's life should be like.
So I think Delegate Stowe would talk to the amendment he's made that will address your both your concerns. Thank you.
Delegate Stewart, on this amendment? Do you have anything?
No, but it's a third one would address.
No, I saw him waving his hand.
Yeah.
Delegate Lukey?
Do you want to talk?
I'll save my comments for Delegate Stewart's amendment.
Okay, on the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment? Why don't we take this vote from the top, please?
Delegate Isabera.
This is on the small amendment, Delegate Esser.
Can you repeat the amendment so I'm clear?
Delegate Queen, do you want to put
Sure, the amendment is that the student member would receive $10,000 in stipend and $25,000 in scholarship funds.
Just want to make sure. Yes.
Delegate Barber.
Okay.
Yes.
So what the other, is the other one in conflict?
It's not in conflict. This is the initial, sorry, just to clarify, this is the initial basically pay increase for the SMOB. We previously adopted the pay increase for the regular member, and then we can discuss maybe the carving out of that with a subsequent amendment that we can have.
I think that would be better. That's the approach we need to take.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, from the top.
Delegate Isabera.
Yes.
Delegate Barber.
Yes.
Delegate Carr.
Yes.
Delegate Arcadian.
Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield.
Yes.
Delegate Humane.
Sure. I raised my objection, so whatever.
Delegate Milford.
Yes.
Delegate Kaiser.
Yes.
Delegate Lopez.
Yes.
Delegate Love.
Yes.
Delegate Lukey.
Yes.
Delegate Moon.
Yes.
Delegate Kalakovich Carr.
Yes.
Delegate Chee.
Yes.
Delegate Queen.
Yes.
Delegate Resnick.
Yes.
Delegate Shetty.
Yes.
Delegate Solomon.
Yes.
Delegate Stewart.
Yes.
Delegate Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, are there further amendment passes? Are there further amendments? Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I also would like to commend Delegate Queen for all her hard work. I defer to the committee on all the amendments that have been discussed so far. I just have one very simple addition to the amendment we just passed, and it goes off my chairman and my office mate, Delegate Moon's comments, which is that the amendment is very simple and I think common sense. It allows the student member of the board to decide the percentage of their compensation of $35,000 they would like to get in either tuition or in stipend, and I think that this would solve the problem I raised at the previous delegation meeting, and also a point that Delegate Luke you raised. For some students who, for example, either have a full ride or who do not want to attend higher education, they're going to prefer the full stipend, and I think they should get that income and not have a smaller percentage income than every other SMOB who pursues higher education has. On the flip side, there will be a lot of SMOBs who want the full amount to go to their tuition, and they should not have to take the stipend on if they don't want it, because that will actually add to their taxable income. And so there may be a lot of SMOBs who want to take the full amount of tuition. I will add one caveat, which is that for, I think, constitutional or otherwise statutory reasons, the SMOB cannot receive 100% of the amount in a stipend. And so you'll notice the language of the amendment says that the total amount received cannot be solely a scholarship or solely a stipend. So I think you could have a 99%, 1% split, so a functional 100%. So that's the amendment. I think it's a common sense way to allow SMOBs to, these are obviously extremely talented 16, 17, 18-year-olds. I fully trust them to make this decision that's best for them, and so that's the amendment.
You move the amendment?
I move it.
Second. Delegate Sue moves the amendment, Delegate Barbe seconds. There discussion on the amendment, Delegate Wiki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Stewart, does the amendment speak to when the student member of the board would make this election?
Yes, and I defer to council, but I believe that this decision would be made at the beginning of their term.
Prior to them being sworn in or after they're sworn in? Because after they're sworn in, it would violate the state constitution.
I would defer to council.
We could edit the amendment to make sure that it's clear that it's prior.
Further discussion? Delegate Solomon?
Just a question. What are the restrictions around what the scholarship dollars can be used for? So with things like student laptop or student needed transportation expenses, but their tuition and room and board are covered, say, by a full scholarship. Could this stipend right now be used for something like that, or how restricted is it?
That's right. It's anything, so you can use it for tuition and going back to materials, books, laptops, pens.
I mean, so if you needed to buy a car to get to and from school, I mean, like how broad is it? Is it anything that could arguably be made a case for something to be from education, or is it?
There is no IG for looking at what the student is doing with the compensation. So far, a lot of the SMOs have used that money all toward scholarships, and what the scholarship doesn't provide from the post-secondary, then they're using that for books and whatnot. I don't think I've encountered a SMOb using it for anything frivolous or unnecessary, frankly.
To just follow up on a question that was asked on the previous minutes, you said Prince George's County is 35. Is that 40? 40, I'm sorry. Is that segmented out, or is it $40,000?
40 going straight toward the post-secondary institution of that student's choice.
So that's fully scholarship. There's no compensation in that.
There is no compensation.
Other discussion on the amendment? Okay, we'll try it this way. All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Great, the amendment carries. On the bill, discussion. I'm sorry, I guess Kelly, can you back in the bill?
Thank you. Okay. Move the bill with the amendments. 3 minutes.
Yeah, and let me add that we will be clarifying in the amendment that we just adopted the timing of when the election is made. I do not think we need to hold the bill up to that. Relatively straightforward.
Okay.
So the bill has been moved by Delegate Queen, seconded by Delegate Lukey. Is there discussion on the bill? Okay, I will try it this way. All in favor of the bill, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The bill passes. Just a reminder before everyone runs out and leaves the announcements, we have our photo over on the steps at 10:45. So please head over there shortly. Community announcements, Delegate Wilkins.
The ladies committee will meet on Tuesday, same time, same place, maybe after 4
Delegate Queen.
The Education, Elections, and Housing Committee will meet next Friday, February 7th, noon at 2 a.m.
Delegate Carr.
Stay tuned for announcement about the Metropolitan Area, Washington Area Committee, depending on what comes out of the Prince George's delegation. We may have one bill from them.
The Economic Development Committee will meet Thursday at 9 a.m. Before floor. Are there any other announcements?
Citation, I need the delegate to sign.
Great. All right, so just a reminder, 10 minutes over on the steps in the State House. Thank you. We're adjourned.